Hi everyone, my name is Mason Kerwick. I am a member of the Yaya Connection. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our presentation, Gaming on the Go. For those of you who don't know, Yaya Connection is a consulting agency based out of the University of Missouri School of Journalism. We create, curate, and connect content with advertising professionals. This is this year's staff. If you are part of the staff, just go ahead and wave, just so that everyone knows who you are. And if you're on the research team, please go ahead and stand up. There were 6 of us this semester. We will be presenting throughout the hour. And yeah, we're really excited to talk about our findings. We studied mobile gaming behavior in members of the youth and young adult market, which is people who are 18 to 24 years old. We are right at the tail end of the millennial generation, so this will be one of the last millennial-focused presentations from Yaya. And so yeah, I guess let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so as I said, Yaya Connection does white papers every single semester. Gaming on the Go was this semester's theme, but we always study our peers. You know, it's a really fascinating time to be a human, just with all the technology that's occurring, all of the social changes, and so there's always a lot to be learned from 18 to 24-year-olds. And it's also just like a unique period of life. Like so much is changing. You're a child, and then you're an adult, and what are you buying? What are you doing? And I don't know, you sort of need someone to be that connective tissue, and that's what we are. If at any point during the hour you want to join in on this conversation, please go ahead and do so. We have some people who are watching via a live streaming service, which is really awesome. But we're going to have a Q&A session at the end of this presentation. And obviously, if you are watching via live streaming, you cannot ask a question. So if you would like to join in on the conversation, our Twitter is active and running. We have a hashtag Gaming on the Go. If you tweet any question towards us, we should be able to answer it in a timely fashion at the end. And also, if you're here and you're like really fascinated and you're like, wow, that was so cool, I just want to share that tidbit, go ahead and do so. That'd be really awesome. This is like a party. Let's hang out with each other. I don't know. We also have a website, yayaconnection.com, where you can find all of our previous white papers, all of our blog posts that we've been doing for the past 5 months. There's just a lot of really, really cool info out there, and I just would recommend taking a look. Maybe not right now because you're at the presentation. Put those horse blinders on. Okay, so yeah, as I mentioned, we sort of bridge the gap between 18 to 24-year-olds and those who are interested in talking about them. This semester in particular, we definitely looked at a lot of mobile just behavior stuff, and wow, that was really scientific sounding. But when we're looking at mobile gaming, there is this phrase called mobile addict, and what that means is it's someone who opens an app on their phone more than 60 times per day. And it's not one particular app, but just apps in general. So raise your hand if you think that might be you. I definitely know that that is me. The interesting thing is that members of the Yaya demographic make up the #1 mobile addicts. So when you are looking at people to launch an app with, members of the Yaya demographic are prime. They are right there. They're on their phones. They are doing what you want them to be doing. So all you have to do is sort of tailor the content towards them. They also spend the least money, which is a really unfortunate aspect if you're looking to sell things towards them, because they want to do it a lot, but they don't want to pay anything for it. So how do you sort of figure out how to target them? Well, some of the things that we'll be talking about throughout the hour sort of give you keys as to how to go about targeting them. When we were looking at insights this semester, we conducted 4 focus groups here in Columbia, Missouri. They were all 18 to 24-year-olds, and then we also had a national survey go out. It had a predominant focus in the Midwest, but there was also a lot of respondents from Texas and California, Washington. We got a lot from the East Coast as well. So the info that we will be giving you today is really, at least in my opinion, relevant to just American members of the Yaya demographic. We also got a few foreign people to take the survey as well, which just can give a little bit of a broader picture. Not too much, admittedly, because we only had 241 people who were able to meet our criteria and then fill out the survey. Okay, so 4 keys. We have 4 really crucial areas where marketers, developers, anyone who's interested in connecting with people through mobile applications can connect with members of 18 to 24-year-old age demographic. And our thought process is that if you follow these, you will be able to win big with the Yaya mobile users.
I like the achievement aspect. It gives you incentive to keep playing the game. Simple is better. It drains my battery if it involves too many visuals. I want something just hard enough to frustrate you, but still obtainable. So this section is going to be especially helpful for game developers who are looking to extend the lifetime of their game. So our second key is know the social taboos. And what this means is knowing the taboos that these young millennials are facing when they're playing mobile games. We're gonna dive into these taboos and figure out this nuanced relationship that they have with games and the social environment surrounding them. So you have probably maybe received a Farmville invite on Facebook or Candy Crush, and you've probably heard people complain and complain and complain about it. And for good reason. These are just a couple of feeds, a couple examples, and as you can see, these news feeds will get cluttered quickly and users can get frustrated and may end up just associating your game with annoying Facebook requests. And this actually is not a limited occurrence. 95% of our respondents said that they had received these sort of invites. So when it comes to Facebook, just don't be a fool about it. So who's actually sending these invites? We found that only 17% of Yaya gamers will actually send these Facebook invites. So it's few people doing a multitude of the sharing. And then when you look at the accept rate on these invites, the results are just even more dismal. As you can see, only 12% will sometimes accept these invites. And then there's 1% that always does, and we're a little bit curious about what they're doing with their time, because obviously they're on Facebook quite a bit. But even so, you shouldn't just write Facebook off. It's still good to have it integrated. We found a really interesting correlation in our national survey. We found that these heavy gamers, the ones that are playing, like Todd said, 4 or more hours per week, they're actually 20% more likely to send and accept these invites than their light gamer counterparts. So now that we've looked at these gamers, one issue we also have is, actually, I'm sorry. You want to know what works, don't you? Because if Facebook doesn't work, something's got to work. And we did find something that works. It motivates downloads twice as much as social media. And again, anybody want to take a guess for what the most effective way is to get people to download your game? It's actually really easy. Okay. All right, you guys, come on. It's word of mouth. 44% of people, 44% of Yaya gamers said that a personal recommendation from a friend or family member is what motivated their most recent download, which is twice as much as what social media motivated. So the problem here is even if you get this awesome recommendation from your best friend for a game and you download it, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna keep it around because like Todd said, 60% of these games are deleted within 1 to 4 weeks of their download. One thing that we found works really well with getting people to stick with a game is competition. And here's something that we heard from one of our focus group participants.
I have a couple games on here, mainly for competitive reasons. I've got one that my husband plays, and I have to beat him.
So, as you can see, even though competition isn't a reason to download a game, it is the most important element when it comes to extending the lifetime of a game. But you see, this competition doesn't just live within the mobile games in this like head-to-head rivalry. it actually can exist on social media as well. As you can see, these gamers will actually screenshot their high scores and share it on social media. And this is extending beyond the natural world and beyond just Facebook. So when you think about it, it's actually more of a hybrid between social sharing and word of mouth. So we have these two voices. These gamers have two voices. There's the one, the social voice that lives in this online environment. And even though it reaches a multitude of people all at once, the influence here just isn't that great, especially if all it takes is just a click of a button to send off an invite to your friends. The second voice we have, on the other hand, is your real life voice, this one that exists in the real world through word of mouth. And although the reach here is not as extensive, the influence is significantly more important here, because those personal recommendations, those are always gonna have more impact. So this third key, know the social taboos. Just be aware of these, keep them in mind. You cannot really just rely on Facebook to extend the reach of your game, because it's gonna be, kind of empty. You wanna make sure that you can incentivize people to share, and you want to facilitate this competitive spirit that they have. So now that we've kind of talked about these general habits of mobile gamers, what they look for in a game, as well as how they share it, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Yin, and she'll talk about monetization.
Okay, thank you, Anna. And our next key, in-game is the way to go. And this section, we're going to talk about in-game purchases and also purchases of the game. And this is the section where game developers, if you really want to make money, this is a section to look for. Okay, most of us here know that the mobile gaming industry is not only huge, but it is also massively growing every day. And to illustrate the competitive landscape, this is a donut chart that shows you out of 216,000 active game apps on the App Store, here are some different price points that are currently available. As you can see, more than half are actually free, and a quarter of them are 99 cents, 7% are costing $1.99, and games that are $2.99 and above only make up 6% out of this donut chart. And what does this imply? Keep in mind that for Yaya mobile gamers, buying a game is like buying milk. Price is all that matters. So when there are so many free alternatives out there, getting them to buy a game is going to be tricky. No matter your game is priced 9 cents or 99 cents or even $9, they just don't care. And we have certified this price factor by asking our survey respondents, have you ever purchased a mobile game? And only half of them said yes. And even when they have, the majority of them only said, I just bought 1 to 2 games, and they're hesitant to purchase it again. And these findings suggest that the young mobile gamers don't really recognize the benefit of the games that they're not interested in enough to make them purchase a game. As for the remaining half who said they have never purchased a game before, these are some of the popular reasons why they don't buy a game. And you can see that our top 2 answers being, I don't want to spend the money, and there are so many free alternatives out there. So you can see that these 2 are actually price related, and they show how much price sensitive Yaya mobile gamers are when it comes to purchasing a game. And something that's not too surprising about our generation is that only 5% of our survey respondents said that the reason they don't buy a game is because they feel unsafe using credit cards online. And so to crack the Yaya wallet, many game developers are now coming up with free games, but with paid commodities such as extra lives, game upgrades, more game content, boosters, and stuff like that. And we have asked our survey respondents if they've made an in-game purchase before. And although the majority said no, they have not, there's still a quarter of them who said, yes, I have. But don't let the numbers discourage you, because according to our secondary research, a mobile gaming analytics company Swerve has found that only less than 1% of mobile gamers account for half of all the in-game revenue. And I'll give you the exact numbers. It's 0.15%. And it shows that even though the numbers who have made the purchase are really, really small, as you can see earlier, there's only a quarter of them who said they've made the purchase. But don't underestimate the power of them in generating in-game revenue. So let's look at some of the reasons why they make in-game purchases. And the first one is time saver. Many of you are familiar with a lot of games that require players to wait for lives to be refilled, and the most common time being 30 minutes per life. And it could take up to 2 to 3 hours for a whole set of 5 lives to be refilled. And if players get really impatient or they just don't want to wait that long, they could just spend 99 cents and get a whole set of lives. And similarly, if a game gets too challenging or too difficult, some people might feel very impatient. And I could just spend money and get more moves and pay to proceed. Like, for example, this is a screenshot from Candy Crush, and this player clearly fails the level because they're out of moves. And he or she could just play on and get more moves by paying 99 cents. Another popular reason is to pay for extra levels or just to pay for more content and upgrades. And Angry Birds have done a very great job in offering first a free version to the players. And if the players really enjoy the game and want to play more, they could just get the full version. And finally, some of our survey respondents have said they just want to have a competitive edge against their competitors. So they could just buy something, buy an extra level, buy a booster, and then every time they start a game, they have an advantage. But what we found is there is still a downside of in-game purchases. And an interesting finding that we have from our survey respondents is even when they actually make an in-game purchase, we have found a sense of guilt in them. And I think this is caused by the money factor, as demonstrated by our focus group respondent here.
I was a couple crushes away from beating a level, so I was like, I gotta do it. So I paid with my debit card, and then I felt ashamed afterwards. I did it like 4 more times, and then I was like, okay, this has got to stop.
And in addition to the money factor, we also find that they feel ashamed for purchasing in-game commodities because they feel like they're cheating to get through the game. And so to help them ease the guilt, one way is to reposition your in-game commodities, make them sound like a tool instead of a cheat. Plants vs. Zombies 2 has done a really great job here. They don't call their their in-game commodities like a dishonest aid to help you get through the game. Instead, they brand it as an extra or a bonus, and then you can see that they could just spend some dollars, and then you can see that they say upgrades you buy in the store will be bought for all profiles. This actually emphasizes the value of these in-game commodities. And one thing you have to make sure is that don't force your players to buy for your in-game commodities. Make them feel like this is something cool to have, and this is something that will be very helpful for my game experiences. And so to wrap up my section, it's really crucial to remember that game execution design is highly influential in Yaya mobile gamers' purchasing behaviors. And you have to know when is the right time to prompt a purchase and how do you want to brand your commodities. And then next, we're going to talk about advertising, and I'm going to pass it over to Lindsay. Thank you.
Thank you, Yen. Okay, so with our next and final key will be advertisers add value. So with so many mobile gamers not paying for games, advertising is becoming increasingly important. Advertising is evolving to become branded sponsorship, often referred to as advergaming, band ads, in-game advertising, video ads, and interactive ads. Gamers, excuse me. The good news for advertisers is that mobile gamers actually would rather play a free game with advertising than pay for a game without advertising. However, these approaches have been predominantly ineffective. And this has been really frustrating for a lot of advertisers and mobile game players. So we set out to discover what kind of advertisements mobile gamers wanted to see. And I've got to say, they were brutally honest in telling us what has been driving them crazy. So, speaking from the Yaya voice, advertisers, if you could please not promote accidental clicks, occupy unnecessary screen space, interrupt gameplay, and navigate users outside of gameplay. As Ian touched on, timing and effective delivery is really important in motivating in-game purchase, and this stands true for in-game advertising. Mobile gaming is a really immersive experience, and these techniques pull the user outside of that experience and often cause them to abandon gameplay. So we had our focus groups render images that they thought were ideal ads, and this is what they came up with. You'll see in the first ad is a banner ad, and at top is small images, kind of akin to those you would see in a Facebook ad, and it doesn't disrupt the gaming experience. This second ad is the brand integrated into the background of the environment. So the ad lives in the background and again, isn't too distracting. And this last ad is representative of what a lot of players felt, that more advertising should happen during cut screens and loading scenes, when we're kind of looking at our phones idly but not actually engaging in the game. So we've kind of talked about how to not distract from that gaming experience, but the most effective way to advertise in mobile gaming is to enhance the player's experience. And our research showed two key ways to do this: in-game branded sponsorship and rewards-based advertising. So branded sponsorship can include anything from branding commodities that are in the game to branding the gaming environment, or to even providing extra branded content. Both Coca-Cola and Google have been experimenting with branding quiz-up quizzes. Now this allows the player to interact with the brand through content that they are already coming to access. Another option is rewards-based advertising. So 90% of our survey respondents indicated that they would watch a 30-second ad for an in-game reward. This interactive rewards-based advertising is creating a value exchange between advertisers and players, and it allows them to get something in return for their attention. So as I'm sure a lot of you already know, the advertising capabilities on mobile devices are not the same as those on your desktop computer. Geographic and kind of behavioral targeting just isn't really plausible right now. And so it's becoming, but that's the kind of experience mobile gamers want. Our research found that a lot of mobile gamers aren't necessarily finding the ads they're seeing relevant. They aren't really wanting those products.
I don't spend money on the type of things I see in a mobile game ads.
It's important to remember that, like we touched on before, the mobile gamer is a really casual gamer, and they're getting their next game requests, and they're getting their new game ideas from their friends. And so they don't just want to see ads for new games, they want to see ads that are relevant to their lives, as pizza eating, beer drinking, jet setting, penny pinching young adults. However, this is changing. As of July 2013, Facebook launched a new platform to help mobile gamers kind of promote their own mobile games. It's targeted at small to medium-sized mobile game developers. And with the kind of demographics that Facebook has access to, we're hoping this is going to allow better targeting for both developers and advertisers.
Thanks, Lindy. So now it's time for us to use the 4 keys we have just learned to unlock the mindset of young and hard-to-reach mobile gamers. The best way to do that is to let them tell you in their own words. So we have 4 volunteers here. Let's take a look at the first insight from them.
I'm not a gamer. A gamer is someone who plays Halo in his mom's basement. Mobile games are just something to do when I have time to kill or want to procrastinate. I don't feel as guilty pulling out my phone as I do turning on TV when I have things to do. It was a joke among my friends when we all got addicted to Flappy Bird, but I never told them I accidentally spent 3 hours playing one night. #whoops.
So sorry, game developers. We don't like to be called gamers. But as Mason has mentioned earlier on, we are actually spending the most time on mobile games. We struggle to justify our playing habit because gamers simply implies that we are not being productive. So next time, you should be careful when you call us because we don't like labels. And when it comes to social media, here comes our second insights.
I'm not going to download a game just because my friend's dad sent me a Facebook invite for it. That's weird. Sometimes I purposely don't play games I get invites for out of spite. It's just so spammy. I'll only send invites to my close friends in dire situations, like when I run out of lives on Candy Crush and I'm trying to beat my brother, because we have a joking agreement about it.
Yes, Facebook integration has become a norm for mobile gamers, but you should always be careful. Don't overuse it. Because it is true that we like to screenshot our high scores and share it on Facebook or other social media to impress our friends, but game invites, not really. So don't force us to annoy our friends with game invites because otherwise we may stop playing your game altogether. And here's the third insight.
Yes, I did it. I paid $1 for a stupid Candy Crush Life, but I was just on this one level I couldn't beat, and it was, getting a little late. Instead of waiting 30 minutes for a new life, sometimes I'll just pay the $1 to get one immediately. I really hate to admit it, but I've also forked over the 99 cents a few times when playing my boyfriend. I just can't stand losing to him.
We have to admit that people all love free stuff, whether it is a bag of free makeup samples or an application. We're thinking, why should we pay for the game while there's a lot of free alternatives out there in the Apple Store? But Yaya Gamers' attitude toward in-game purchase is kind of different. As one of our focus group respondents has said, they have to make money somewhere anyway, so why don't just pay the extra $1 and let me move on to my life? And here comes our last insights.
No, I really don't want to download Farm Heroes right now. Do they actually expect people to click on these ads? I don't want any of these things, but I could go for a pizza. Gah, those stupid tiny X's. My fingers are too fat for they drive me crazy. If anything I click on takes me to 3 different browsers, you can bet I'm not going to click on it again. And what is this, the 90s? I haven't seen graphics this bad since Atari.
As you have seen, mobile gaming experience is an immersed experience. Nobody likes to see an interrupted ads when they are trying really hard to keep their birds in the air. It is also not a good idea to trick them to click on the ads because we all know false relationship doesn't last long. As Lindsay has pointed out, good in-game ads usually appear at the right place and at the right time. So maybe you could place your ads during the loading page or cutscene. That's probably a better choice. So we hope that you can get a better idea of the keys through all these insights and our collaboration. So now I will hand to Mason, who will introduce you to more detailed takeaways you can use.
Thank you. So when it comes to taking away what we have given to you during today's presentation, I know that we threw a lot of information at you. And so it's like, okay, like what is quantifiable when I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do? Well, I'm going to walk you through some very briefly. Game design essentials. Have it be really, really simple. You have to keep in mind that people are probably bored when they're starting to play the game, so you don't want to bore them already with a really complex interface. So just keep it simple. They're probably going to pick it up for 5-10 minutes and put it down, and that's totally fine. Just know that going into it and have your game be set up so that they can win a life, they can feel really great about something, move on, put the game down, and come back later. You don't want it to be something where it's so complex that they give up entirely. You also want to make certain that there are frequent initiatives to keep moving forward, that they feel fulfilled by some sort of achievement that happens. And that all goes back to the game design. Be social savvy. You want to lead people in the direction of sharing your game on social media. Make it so easy for them, but do not require it. You kind of want to foster, but don't force. That's the way we've been looking at it. People might take a screenshot if they feel so inclined, and that will generate a conversation of its own instead of requiring someone to have to use social media in order to advance through the game. People aren't going to like that. Members of the Yaya demographic, we're flaky, and you want it to make it so that we do not flake out. I wish that we were not such a tricky demographic. I wish that we were really simple and we were like, hey, this is what I like, but no, we are some tricky little devils. And so when it comes to being social, we like being social, but we like to do it on our own terms. Okay, the road to riches begins after the download. This can be really difficult because when you're looking at initial downloads and purchases of games, it might be like, hey, my game costs nothing, it's free. But when it comes to that continual playing, if you can get people to pay $1.99 or even 99 cents for a game, you are already increasing the revenue that you have gotten from that free download. Because as we mentioned earlier, even if it costs 99 cents, people are less inclined to buy that. During our focus groups, a lot of people said that the only time they purchased games was when they had an iTunes gift card. So even if they're willing to purchase songs, for whatever reason, they still are not yet willing to purchase mobile games. So make it free, and then after that point in time, all of your money can be accrued during the gameplay itself. And then the last one is add value. If you're going to have advertising, make certain that it really enhances the gameplay, that it's something that people can enjoy and it doesn't disrupt what they're trying to do with your game. You also want to sort of tailor it. A lot of our advertising that we notice isn't tailored within these mobile games. And so if you can find a way that it really enhances and strengthens what's going on, and you have it during loading screens, or you have it so it's not interrupting the delicate finger motions of a mobile game, people are going to enjoy it that much more.
Okay, so now it's story time. In this section, we are going to tell you a little bit about the experience of the gaming industry as a whole and what we have learned through this research. And hopefully in the end, Anna will tell you, give you some peek of an exclusive beta test experience we got for a new game. So, first off, we have to admit that making money off the Apple Store is hard. It is not only because it is hard to break through the clutter of apps in the App Store, it is also because the fast-paced nature of mobile gaming industry. Even popular games like Flappy Bird can die out quickly. For example, this is a chart we pull up from Google. It shows you the interest based on search volume over time. As you can see, when we first start our research, which is in February, Flappy Bird is steadily gaining traction. And we are not surprised to find out that a lot of our focus group participants associate Flappy Bird with mobile gaming. But 2 weeks later, when we send out our national survey, the response we get is different. A game called 2048 surpassed the Flappy Bird to become the second favorite mobile games for this age group.
Yeah, so when we first saw 2048 pop up on the survey, I thought it was an error code. However, a quick Google search obviously proved my sanity, and I went ahead and downloaded it. And what started as kind of research quickly became a spiral of black hole of productivity. 2048 is simple. It integrates social components. It is easy to pick up and put down if you have a modicum of self-control, which apparently I don't. And it has a lot of those key things that we touched on, which make a game big. And thank goodness I didn't know that I could have been playing 2048 months earlier, or I probably wouldn't be graduating in 2 weeks.
And yes, but 2048 is actually not the one of its kind in the Apple Store. It's believed to be a clone from another game called 3. So on your left-hand side, it is 3, which costs you money, $1.99. And on your other side, it's a free game. Personally, I have to admit that I feel 3 has a more cleaner and more colorful design. But guess who wins the heart of Yaya Mo gamer's heart? Yes, it's 2048. So one of the big takeaways from this, from the success of 2048 is we think making your app or game app free for download and add some in-game purchases will be a really powerful way to win big for the mobile gamers. And then I will hand to Anna to talk a little bit about Flurf.
Okay, so we actually got to look at a up-and-coming mobile game. It's actually being submitted to the App Store today, and hopefully the official launch date is going to be by May 17th. And just to give you a little bit of background, this game, it's called Flurf, and it comes out of the design studio called Loreful, and this was founded by Aaron Cagle. And just to give you an idea of what we got to see with this game, we're going to show you a trailer of Flurf, and I think you guys will appreciate it just as much as we did.
His Flurf. Monsters have stolen his kids, and they are
Robo,
Potsy, Snag, Gooey Lumber, Gooey, Arachnoclaw, Thorny, and Carl. Escape the monsters. Rescue the kids. Get it for free at the Apple App Store, Google Play, and the Amazon App Store. Or visit us at flurfgame.com.
Okay, so right off the bat, we really liked this game design, and I think Aaron might be watching right now on the live stream, so hopefully I'm doing a good job of showing off this fantastic little game we have. So what we wanted to do was actually look at how Flurf incorporates these 4 keys that we talked about earlier. So our first key, just a reminder, is keep it light, and we think they did a really great job. I mean, if you notice that game design, it's nice and simple, it's clean, but it's also really colorful, and there's just enough there to keep you interested and not distract you, which is fantastic. But another thing that we talked about was we want these achievements and these objectives. And during our beta test, we weren't quite sure when our first achievement was going to be, so we went ahead and asked. And as it turns out, there are going to be a couple of updates coming along which are going to add in these objectives. They'll be releasing new monsters every couple of weeks, and to get your first achievement, you free the 5 little babies and beat your first boss. So overall, we think that, yes, Flurf did a great job of meeting our first key. So moving on to our second key, the social engagement portion of this. We weren't able to really see a social component in the beta section, but this is something that they are putting the finishing touches on right now, and players are going to have the capability to take a screenshot of their high scores and then share it through Facebook and Twitter. So they're doing a fantastic job with that. That's giving people the option to share on their own terms, which we talked about earlier. And in addition, they are looking to find ways to incentivize people to share these high scores. And that kind of takes us into our second key, or our third key, sorry. But yes, they did do a great job meeting our second key. So third key, in-game. They have gems that you can use that will extend your lifetime. So they do have this in-game portion, and as you saw in the video, it's free to download, which, again, that's going to create a low barrier to entry, which we love as 18 to 24-year-olds. But the only thing that we noticed, you saw Plants vs. Zombies was a good example of having a lot of different in-game commodities. The only thing with Flurf is right now there's just these gems, so we see a little bit of potential for expansion here. But so far, in-game monetization looks like it's going to be doing a really good job for them. So yes, Flurf meets our third key. And going on to our fourth key, advertiser add value. So yes, it's a free game. They do have in-game monetization opportunities, but they're starting off with some little banner ads, which is good because they're only showing up in the home screen and then the game over screen in the top right-hand corner. So out of the way, not interrupting gameplay, which follows right along with what we said in our advertising section. However, we did emphasize how rewards-based and branded sponsorships are going to be a really great way to add value for these gamers. So that's an area that we think Flurf could probably expand on a little bit, but right now what they're doing with advertising is mostly doing it all right. So overall, we've had a really great time just diving into understanding our peers actually and figuring out how to help you guys reach this demographic in the best way possible. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it and hope that you can stay tuned and also look out for our white paper. It should be going live tonight. So that's all we got. Okay, so we are going to open up the floor for some questions. And for those of you in the audience with questions, we'll bring mics around to you. So make sure you wait until you have that mic so our live stream can hear you when you ask your question. Yes, Leah?
We have a question from Twitter, and it's, which device do mobile gamers prefer, iPhone or Android?
Actually, so in our national survey, we did find that it's not necessarily a preference, but most people are using the Apple version, so iPhones. That was where the majority of these gamers are playing. But when you look at, so there's people that call themselves gamers. You saw it was a really small percentage of people. Those people are more likely to be playing on an Android. Yeah, thanks for the question.
I was just curious of the the weeks that you, like the 1 to 4 weeks where they delete those games. Did you look at whether those were free games or if any of those were purchased?
I think Lindsay's got a good answer for that one.
Yeah, great question. A majority of them were free. The interesting thing that came up with the focus group is that almost no one had bought paid games, and the ones that did deleted them out of boredom anyways, so it didn't seem to matter, at least in the focus group. Again, that's kind of a small sample size. But it didn't seem to matter whether they were free or paid, but most of the games they were deleting were free because most of the games they had were free.
Thank you.
Hey, I've got a question about basically the way the ads are served within the platform. So you said that encouraging the fat-fingered clicks, people accidentally clicking on the ads, is something that advertisers shouldn't do. But the thing is, a lot of these ads are actually bought on exchanges. And you basically put your ad into a big pool, and they can be served on pretty much any app unless you exclude a specific app, right? Which means that it seems like a lot of game developers are actually incentivized to encourage this on the developing side platform. What would be an ideal way, a more ideal way to balance revenue with, like you said, the user interface, but then also what's a good way for media agencies and advertisers to sort of vet out the apps that they should be advertising on if they are to buy on an exchange? Say they don't feel they have enough capital to sponsor an entire app.
Okay, so what you're asking is, can I try and put this in a nutshell here?
That was
So they're advertising. They're serving their ads through these exchange platforms.
Yeah.
And then, well, I guess our main point here with, again, like the fat-fingered clicks, we just really want these advertisers, no matter if it is in an exchange, they should know if they are going to be serving on a mobile platform. We want them to be aware of what their ads are going to look like in a mobile platform and just be really aware of that environment, because, if they have an ad that has that tiny little X up at the very corner of the screen, that's going to get people frustrated. So just being really aware of that environment that the ad's in. Sorry, did you want to expand?
Actually, that tiny little X actually is not part of the actual ad. That's within the platform itself a lot of times. Like, at least when I buy ads on an exchange, and as a rule, I tend to avoid the mobile things just because unless you're targeting 1 or 2 or 3 specific apps, it's impossible to just troll through all of these apps and make sure you're not just, getting fat finger clicks.
So I think, good point. Thank you.
Did you ask me a question? Did I lose?
So I think actually here, I'll hand it over to Lindsay. I think she's got a little better handle on this than I do.
Yeah, I think that's, I didn't address that, but that's one of the limitations right now is, the developers create these slots where these ads are going. And so that's really restricting. But I think what we're trying to push for is, you can kind of equate it to pop-up ads on computers. It's going to happen, but in order to be more effective, I think advertisers should start looking at these other options of including their game into play and doing this rewards based. But we do understand, there's limitations to that, and not every advertising or every brand is going to be able to do that. But it was a great point.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have another? Yeah.
Coming.
Yeah, I just had a quick question about numbers, and I don't think you addressed this, but what were the numbers like for people who make in-app purchases? Because I know watching this, I mean, I'm someone who if I see a game that is gonna have in-app purchases as a facet of it, like I won't buy it for that reason, or I won't download it even if it's free for that reason. So what were the numbers like for like how much money people are spending in apps, like in games?
As for how much money they're spending? Well, with the in-game advertising, are you asking if it's, so for you it's kind of it's a barrier to entry if it does offer those in-game advertising? I'll let Yin kind of has a better idea of these numbers. I'll hand it to her.
Okay, so the majority of our respondents are actually not really happy about paying for games anymore. I mean, of course, and then they would expect if they don't have to pay in-game purchase anymore if they have paid for the game. But even though they're actually okay with the idea of freemium games, which is free games with paid commodities, none of them, I mean, not really a lot of them actually say that they would pay. And as you can see from just now, but we didn't really ask about the question how much they pay in the survey, but we did have a focus group respondent said, like, proudly admitted that she actually spent almost $25 on just one game itself. And because she actually recognized the benefit of playing and getting the in-game purchase right at the moment when she's playing. So that's the extent that we currently know. And there might be more, but we haven't had the chance to find it out yet.
There were also, like, weirdly enough, so many people were just embarrassed about the fact that they had spent money. And when we were doing our focus groups, I kind of felt like people were like giving us white lies, like, oh yeah, no, like I'd never made an in-app purchase. I don't even know what that is. What? And you could like definitely tell from like the follow-up questions that they were a little bit more knowledgeable than they were initially giving off with. And so I don't know with our national survey, like we were in the room with the people, obviously, so hopefully they're a little bit more truthful. But it was interesting, just the like disparity between the remarks.
Oh, we got one more.
First off, really great job. I had no expectations like going in knowing what all was going to get covered, and I was really surprised by a lot of the stuff. Like, it really resonated with me. One thing though, just during the advertising section, I know that I've bought, actually purchased a game, like I think the first version of it was free and it had tons of ads. Like, you had to get through advertisements at every single, after every single play. But then, so I got sick of that and I like forked up $1.99 for a free app, or sorry, for an app free of advertising. And it was the same exact version. It's just, there's a free version and a paid version without advertising. So I didn't know if you guys found more research on that. If there are more people out there like me in my age demographic, or I don't know, I just didn't hear that topic covered and if that was a viable option for game developers out there to have two versions of their game.
Actually, so in the game that we looked at, Flurf, it's coming out as a free game with just those couple of ads, but they are going to be releasing, there's a 99-cent ad-free version. So just kind of with our own experience, which is relevant because we are 18 to 24-year-olds, it is always helpful to have that option to have no advertising, because if they get frustrated like you did, they're going to quit playing anyway. But as far as the national survey, we didn't ask specifically about that sort of thought process, but I think you do bring up a really good point, because just from just our general experience, that does seem to be something that's pretty common. Okay, unless we have any more questions, anything from Twitter, Leah? Okay, well, we really appreciate you guys coming out, and we actually have a happy hour just across the street at BBC2. We'll have some food, and there will be margaritas around, although you guys can buy those yourself. Sorry. I'll split one with you, but that's okay. Well, I think that's all we got. Thank you so much.